Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. Here we go again, part 2, A9 algorithm with Anthony Lee. We left it at the last point yesterday. We were talking about relevance. Today, let's talk about stuff that works, stops working, does work, works again.
Sure. Okay. So, having worked in the launch space for so long, I've actually gotten to see firsthand through not just a handful, but thousands of product launches, what has worked and what doesn't anymore. And basically what happened after all these changes was once upon a time, one day, like big unit promos used to work, right? Drop 150 units in a quote unquote giveaway, which is actually just a deep discount promotion in a single day within like maybe 2 hours. And then all of a sudden, boom, you're page one. Well, that stopped working. So we evolved, and then it was, hey, let's spread it out over 4 days, consistent sales every day. And that was cake for a while. And then that also stopped being as effective. So then we extended it to 7 days, maybe sometimes 8 days, and then that stopped being as effective. And then we played around with it and staggered it out every other day. That stopped being as effective. And there was a period of time then when everybody was really worried about whether or not deep discount promotions worked at all. And then I invented this thing called the Slingshot Method. And the whole purpose of the Slingshot Method was just to make it look more organic. So it would stagger days of promotions, and then it would increase the number of promotions over the course of the week. So it looked like you were doing all this stuff, but ultimately your product was becoming more and more popular.
Yeah.
But right around the time, and that got a lot of traction. It was really fun for about like 3 days. And then like right around the time that I put that out, boom, the consensus was, hey, you know what? Deep discount promos just aren't as effective anymore. And people moving away from it rapidly. But what all that did was it illustrated a powerful point to us. This was the very first time that we started to get a glimpse of, what to expect. And that is that mixing signals, even in internal promotions, seem to be more effective than just going one way, one channel, doing one thing. So anyway, so that kind of brings us to where we're at now, right? So now we see people report these anomaly positive results where they're like, hey, deep discount promos, they still work. Add to cart campaigns, they still work. I use storefront URLs and all these things supposedly don't work anymore, but we see people, doing them and they work. And then we're also seeing a bunch of people reporting, like this is all anecdotal, but you'll see it in the forums, right? All the people reporting that they're doing these search, find, buy, full price promotions, and like their ranking is fluctuating or they're not getting where they want. It's not working. And it's like, well, how's that? Well, there's actually a simple explanation to that. And that's that Amazon is tracking everything. So the reason for these sporadic results is that they all do work, but they also don't work. I know that's like super confusing, but basically how that ties in with Amazon tracking everything. So it was actually Vince, an ex-coworker of mine from Helium 10, that brought this to the forefront in my mind, because I go to the people who are in the industry too and confer with them. Like, we're seeing weird stuff. This is right around the time I got a call from an Italian affiliate who was like, we're doing these full price promos, but ranking is fluctuating. And I started hearing more and more about this in Europe. So I went to Vince and I was like, what could be causing this? And he's like, oh, without a doubt, it has to be attribution. Attribution's being turned on and rolled out to many, many more accounts. And what that means is now Amazon's having to take all these new data points and actually track them and do stuff with them. So his point of view was, so that means that Amazon now more than ever can see when things look weird, including if you're doing rebates or blah, 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 blah. And that kind of put a light switch on in my head. I was like, oh, okay, this is all starting to make sense. So basically, I think that attribution set the stage for this. But essentially, I started looking at like, these internal Amazon documents that float around. Like, I started looking at all the data. And I noticed, okay, well, we know that Amazon tracks expected add to carts, right? Because we have this ratio, add to cart over expected add to cart. They track expected purchases. They probably track expected traffic and expected conversion rates too. I mean, they have the data, right? They know what every product should perform, what level it should perform at. I mean, they've been selling every product known to man since forever. So due to that vast history, they have expected numbers for everything. And now we know that not only are they tracking it all, but they're actually purposefully tracking and doing stuff with that data. So it makes sense. If you run a deep discount promotion, Amazon knows all the sales velocity came through a coupon. If you do it all through the same URL, they know it came through that URL. And even when you're doing search, find, buy, and 95% of your sales comes from the search bar, they know that ain't real. They know that. Like 95% of their own customers don't do that. So now, the fact that Amazon is tracking all this means that everything that you do, they know when something doesn't look realistic. They know when it looks, I don't want to say abused, but when it looks manipulated in some way, like it's super easy for them.
Basically unusual activity.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So when you do something too often, that's a red flag. It stops working. It's hit some, invisible velocity limit, and a red flag happens. And then like Amazon has the ability to shut down anything, reviews because of it, ranking because of it. Like literally they can just turn a switch, and then whatever you were doing just doesn't work anymore. But if you do things infrequently, even the stuff that supposedly doesn't work anymore, because you're not abusing that channel, it appears that it can work. And that's, I think, what's going on. Like, I think that's why people are getting these mixed results, because they're leaning way too hard on one thing. And Amazon knows, well, this isn't natural. Like, this isn't organic. We know what you're doing, and we're not going to let you do it anymore.
Yeah. So let's look at what's working now.
All right. So it's a shopping platform. So we know sales velocity, sales volume, sales history, like all that stuff's always going to be a major factor. I mean, it can't not. It's a shopping platform. So that'll be the single biggest factor for relevance that there is. However, organic customer behavior is, and this is on page, this is off page, this is on the way to page. I mean, literally everything that a customer might do on the Amazon platform, all that stuff matters to them too. And then staying within expected percentage ratios, like not hitting those invisible velocity limits, basically making it all look as organic and natural as possible. Like that's the stuff that helps move the needle for ranking right now. So that's the reason why deep discounts and super URLs, can still work sometimes. Search, find, buy, and rebates can still work sometimes. Basically, as long as the levers are pulled, in moderation,
in balance,
in balance, and not in excess, then you're probably going to get the results. So ultimately, the ultimate formula for ranking right now: traffic plus diverse refers plus on-page activity plus add to carts plus sales plus sporadic but growing velocity plus stable or growing sales history. That's the formula right there. That's what's working right now.
Great. Talk about some tests.
So obviously this stuff changes like probably every 90 to 180 days. But lately what we've seen work. So we know recently a lot of people are getting amazing results from like doing rebate promos because it's a full price purchase. And a lot of times they go ahead and push the search and find just because that does look good to Amazon. Amazon likes it when people search for stuff and, oh, they found your product. That must be a popular product. So for a while that was working really well. We've obviously taken it a step further and started testing other stuff. And right now we can say with confidence that full price purchases are outperforming and have for some time now discounts. We can also say with confidence that the add to carts, they do work, but with diminished effect. They're not as powerful as they used to be. And you also have to do it in a more intelligent way now, because like if you do something like add a coupon to the cart along with the product, like Amazon knows what's going on there. And then obviously if you just have way too many add to carts, they know what's going on there. So it takes a little bit more effort. But what we're actually seeing really good results is changing up the URLs. We've been playing around with these social share URLs. So like if you go to a listing, you know, at the bottom of the buy box, it'll have like these little social icons. It'll say, you know,
Twitter, Pinterest, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Click share. Well, I mean, right there, that's a URL embedded with a tracker code that basically tells Amazon, hey, somebody shared this listing. And then that person came to the listing. Amazon likes that. So we've seen some good results from that.
So more rumor mill stuff. Give me some speculation on some stuff happening at the moment. The sky is falling.
Well, so, I mean, this is also going to change. This probably changes more frequently, like every 30 days, something is happening and the sky is falling. The most current speculation that I've heard, and I mean, and what's wild to me is this stuff will come from reliable like source. Like when I say reliable, I mean like respected people in the industry. And I don't want to talk down about anybody. What I'm saying is that all of us, myself included in the past, like we get convinced of things and it turns out to just not be true. And I'm not sure, like, I guess that just is kind of a testament to the power of the.
It's observation. You're testing all the time. Your test's going to be set up different to others. People are going to be better at testing than others, and some people are going to have better data than others. So ultimately what it comes down to is what people are trying to do is get to the truth. People are trying to share information and get to the end result. I'm a big believer. It don't matter. You don't have to be right, but someone does, you know, to get to the right decision. It's ego that gets in the way if you feel you have to be right at everything all the time. The ultimate goal is to get the general consensus that is right.
Absolutely. Everybody wants the truth. I think the one pitfall that people kind of accidentally fall into, though, is that they don't test. They just take it from somebody that they trust. And then even those guys, like I know people, you know, in the very, 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 very successful sales range who have, so how it kind of happens is they'll be, you know, they have a ton of products that they're doing stuff with. And then something weird will happen with one of them. And then like they'll make a comment publicly in Facebook and they don't realize how much power that they have when they make this comment, but they'll make a comment somewhere in Facebook like, holy crap, this happened. What do you guys think it is? We think maybe it was this. And the next thing you know, 30% of their audience is going to go out there and just start telling everybody, hey, this happened because of this. And that's where the breakdown comes from. It's not from testing. It's from somebody influential making a comment and not fully informed yet. And then before the full information comes in.
I do think some people do that. They're trolling as well. You know, there's a bit of tongue in cheek involved.
Yeah. I think that does happen. But either way, so the latest sky is falling kind of info. And I just like to point this out because it illustrates like how it always happens and how it's usually wrong. But current speculation is that the MiniChat token so basically MiniChat recently changed the way they let URLs kind of leave their platform and they tag it with a MiniChat token. And it's probably for their own purposes. They're probably trying to be as intelligent as possible with like just tracking everything. They want to see where their stuff goes, who goes to it, where it came from, where it ends up. So they add this token. And there are people that are convinced that that token, Amazon has figured out that that token is there and therefore is deranking any products that see a ranking increase because of promotion through that, you know, through MiniChat. So, which, you know, I don't think that that's the case at all. but I mean, that's just an example of like one of the things that happens. So the next thing you know, you'll see a bunch of posts that people are basically saying, hey, don't use this rank method anymore. It doesn't work, or it'll get you suspended. Or, I mean, it's just like definitive language because it's been shared enough. We're not seeing that at all with our tests. And that's why it is really important to run your own tests. like, and we can show you the data. Like I can show the data behind it, right? So I can make a statement and then I can say, see, this is
Yeah.
look, like this is what we're doing and this is how it works. But ultimately, the thing is, like I explained in the last episode, right? Understanding Amazon's motivation and what they're doing kind of gives you an idea of why they're doing it and what they're going to do in the future. So in my experience, my limited experience over the course of the last 6+ years with specifically working in Amazon and Amazon product launches, et cetera, I have seen Amazon takes 3 actions. Typically one way more than the other, and then that one even more than the last. But these 3 actions are usually like 99.9% of what they do. There is a 0.1% that they'll do something completely out of character, but these are the 3 things they do. The first thing that they tend to do is flag the customer with a low quality score. It's the easiest thing that happens, right? They flag the customer with a low quality score. Or if they find like, excuse me, if they find like a group of customers that are all in like a group, or they're all acting in a similar fashion, they'll find them and they'll tag them. And what does that do? When they have a low quality score, it's real simple. They can do whatever they want. They can go and they can search, find, buy your products and use all your URLs and use all your promo codes and buy all your products, and you won't see any change in rank. Real easy. And that's why they do it that way. It's the simplest way to do it. They also won't let them review your products. I mean, like, it's just the simplest nip in the bud. I would say 85% of action happens right there. The next thing they'll do is they will flag a product. They can flag a product. We've seen this, right? Some people's product, like nobody can leave a review for it, even the good customers. That's because they can flag a product. This tells me that they probably have the ability to flag a seller, though. Not only have I never seen that happen, but I mean, literally at least on 3 separate occasions in the past, I've gone to my quote unquote inside sources, people literally who are connected to people who work for the company Amazon, and basically ask them, like, is it possible that this is an issue at the seller level?
Yeah.
And they're like, every time they're like, no, if there's a problem at the seller level, either you're going to have your listing, delisted, or you're going to be suspended. But that doesn't mean that won't change one day. But for now, they're flagging the product. So like if Amazon has a problem with the stuff that you're doing, they may very well turn off reviews on that product. And it's even possible that other things can go wrong with that product too. I've never seen them like make a product not rank, but they'll definitely do things like move it to a different category, or significantly reduce relevance for a keyword, or de-index it. I mean, how many times has all that happened, right? People can say that almost every seller that's been in the game for longer than 3 months could be like, oh yeah, I had a listing that I happened to, index change, the category change. Amazon has all kinds of ways to mess with your product at the product level, but they don't do that as often. And then the last thing that they'll do, if a problem is prevalent and they want to handle it programmatically, the last thing they'll do is they'll take away a feature or suppress the effects of something. So 2 examples of that in the past: they took away the money off coupons, and deep discount promotions have diminished in their effectiveness for ranking. So those are 2 examples of how they handle the issue programmatically. So those are the 3 things that they do. And this kind of provides a really solid checklist, or almost like a troubleshooting list. When things are happening and you don't understand what could possibly be going wrong, that's usually the list you look at, where you could see like where that problem where its root might be.
Cool. And finally, what now?
So moving into the future, if you consumed all of that information, you understand Amazon's motivation, what they have done, and what is working now, you can kind of project into the future what's probably going to happen. So you want to diversify your traffic sources. Now, right now, we're doing that with referral tags using the social share. That's not going to be effective forever, guaranteed. So what's the next step? You're probably going to have to diversify the actual source of the traffic through the browser and everything. One day that won't be effective anymore either. Now we're talking probably like a year, 18 months in the future. But when that happens, you know, the next step, like once you understand how Amazon works, you can kind of figure this stuff out. So the next step would be actually paying attention to the actual social profile that it was shared from, right? This is all, by the way, this is not me being a prophet of the future. This is all stuff Google already did. Google laid the map out. So if you don't believe me, just look at what they did. This is what Amazon's going to do. So diversify your traffic sources, diversify your listing activity, associated relevance. That's basically the browse path that a customer takes. Very rarely does anybody just go to Amazon, type in the search bar, find the thing that they want, click on it, and then buy it. Usually what will happen is they'll go to a listing and then they'll see what might be a better listing for a better price somewhere else on the listing, right? Similar products to other customers also bought, those kinds of things. They'll click through there. Like there's tons of clicking happening. When your product ends up bought after it has been, the customer has gone through a couple of different experiences on the Amazon platform, you get what's called associated relevance. And this is the kind of thing that determines who shows up in those sections. The frequently bought together, customer also bought, like all that stuff changes based on associated relevance. So that's something to consider. It's not always all about running promos, getting the purchase, and then ranking. Like sometimes you want to be intelligent about, if you're guiding your customers through activity, you want to be intelligent about what activities they're taking. And then just remain aware, but not reactionary to inevitable changes. Like I just said, 6 months from now, one thing will change. A year and a half from now, another thing will change. Like it's always going to happen. Don't be reactionary though. You know, turning off all of your ads and all of your promos is probably going to have a more detrimental effect to you than being slow and methodical about it.
Cool. That was pretty epic getting through that lot. So if people want to reach you, what's the next steps now?
I am all over the social media. So Anthony Lee 991, that's my TikTok handle. That's my Twitter handle. That's my Instagram handle. That's my Facebook. Literally whatever your flavor, just find that. I'm always on there.
Cool. Guys, I hope you enjoyed that. I did as well. I had a little bit of a history lesson as well. It was good to go back and reminisce some of those early periods. But if this is your first time, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And I'll see you again in the next few days. Take care.